Live from the grill on San Mateo, it's Champions Corner with Coach B. Today, John Chavez, our special guest, Mark Tiki Smith, will be in studio. What's up, Mr. Chavez?
Hey, Coach, welcome back. It's been a hiatus since you've been here.
It's been a hiatus. I've been, listen, I follow the quarantine.
Yeah.
I've been quarantining. You see that I have my face mask on. I have it on for a reason. I'd like to say it's COVID protection.
Yeah.
I have it on because I look damn good in my mask. You know what I'm saying? It hides everything. When I walk around, I notice women look at me going, look at that man with the mask. Usually it's when I don't have it, ooh, look at that man, but now there's a little mystique, a little mystery. Ooh, look at that man with the mask.
The Bonnie and Clyde syndrome.
And so that's the reason why I'm wearing my mask.
Outlaw, yeah.
I've already, announced that once COVID is done, I'm still wearing the mask.
Yeah.
The mask is part of the ensemble from now on. You know what I'm saying?
It's an accessory that's going to stay.
I'm going to match it up with my jackets during the winter time, and they'll say, "Who is that masked man?" You know what I'm saying? So I've had a great time. What's going on since the last time I left?
Wow, a lot of, I mean, you weren't around when they sort of dropped the hammer on our season, so that's been, we had a sort of a 2-week mourning period because we went from, working with a personal trainer 3 days a week for my son playing quarterback, and then I would train other kids about 3 or 4 days a week. So there was some weeks that we were getting like 9 practices in a week, and then it went from poke the balloon and let all the air squealing out to we had about a 2-week period where like, okay, we're not going to go do anything for a while.
And you got to reevaluate.
Yeah, you're like, okay, now the season's been pushed off hopefully until February. And, okay, so what are we going to do? So when we went through that 2-week period of crickets and literally, and that was pretty rough. And I finally got to use our board there.
Do you know what that sounds like? Right now, that sounds like the field where me and Orion used to train. Can I hear that again, the field? Live from the park where Orion and Coach would train.
Yeah, definitely. So I went through that sort of 2-week, and now we're back to
the crickets are loving life.
Yeah, so now we're back to working out in the mornings. Yeah, we've been doing that.
Orion is just running on his own.
Yeah,
doing yoga still on his own. We've shut down all the intense positional training and stuff like that, and once we have a plan. Once we get back on the field, he's going to do a lot of O-line work, is what
Yeah.
he's going to do. And then, come around November maybe, we'll get back on the field doing some defensive work and everything. And so it really has. It's changed everything. They're not going to have school until after Labor Day, which I like anyway. I've always thought that schools that start in, first week of August when it's 100 degrees out, and, I never could understand that. Back east, everything starts after Labor Day, and they go to the middle of June. I know we get out a little bit earlier here, and they do the same thing in Oklahoma, first week of August, like they're out first week of May. And so you get all of May. Me growing up back east, May was still a school year. We didn't get out until, I believe, second, third week of June.
Yeah.
Which is right around the corner from the 4th of July. So when you go to high school back east, 4th of July weekend kind of signifies the beginning of summer. Out here, it feels like the 4th of July weekend kind of signals the end of summer, and especially if you're a full sport, kid where you start practicing and start getting down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
The way sports are now, man. NFL camps are in full swing right now. Coach Harbaugh is, back to work full time, getting his team ready, to compete, to get into the tournament and hopefully do well in the tournament. The NHL is in tournament play already. My team, I'll tell you what, my teams have really sucked lemon.
So it took like 2 weeks for
my
the
goodness!
dreams of luster
I think my team in hockey, might be eliminated today. They might be eliminated as we speak. They might have been eliminated.
That's funny.
My team is the New York Rangers. They're more than halfway through the first period. No score against the Carolina Hurricanes. They're down 2-0 in a best of 5. It's like my teams suck. The Mets, me and Sebastian, who's working tonight. Sebastian won't be here because he's working up north. His team drubbed my team this week.
I'm sure he let you know about that.
Oh yeah. Well, we were together.
Oh, okay.
And so, which makes it worse.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because, when his team, he's a front runner. And he was smug and arrogant, and his team kicked our butts, which made it easier for me. If we, the Friday night, we were up 6 runs. In the 8th inning, we gave it up. The Braves came back and won, from a 6-run deficit. So my Mets suck. My Rangers are down 0-2. They suck. The Knicks didn't even qualify to start the season again in the NBA.
To be in the bubble?
They didn't even qualify to be in the bubble. And my Giants are, we'll see.
Yeah.
The jury's out for them. They just, last week, their starting left tackle, Nate Solder, opted out. And so the Giants are looking for a left tackle to protect Daniel Jones. So it's been a rough pro sports for me. Now I have the Ravens, and hopefully they've got to pick up the slack for the other 4 teams now. I don't want to put any pressure on Coach Harbs, but they got to pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And so now we're with college football, who knows where we're going with college football. Who knows what the direction we're going in. I mean, it's always exciting and the unknown. Maybe he's a guy coming in right now, the legend, coming in. Maybe he can enlighten us and see where we're at with sports, man. If anybody knows, it's the legendary Mark Ticky Smith.
I don't even know where I am for dinner, brother. We have to wear these? Or?
No.
I'm doing it because I look
it's a
better.
fashion statement.
I-
It's a
well,
fashion
you don't have to.
statement.
He
You don't
look,
have to.
yeah, he looks
It's a
like
fashion. It's purely fashion for me.
Yeah, I like it, man.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
like
See,
it.
Mark knows.
If I saw you out and about with that, I would either think that I was with a star of stage and screen,
Well, Michael Jackson was doing this years before everybody else, remember?
or I would pull out my wallet. One
Which
of
would
the
even
two.
be better.
But either way,
Yeah.
that's respect.
Yeah, you have to wear your mask.
So,
It's purely, you
GNR,
can
baby.
take yours off. You can take yours off.
okay, I'm going to alternate around. I've got my Route 66 hat on,
Okay.
and I might switch.
How you
couple
been
of
through
these.
COVID, Tiki? How you been? How you been handling it during COVID?
You know,
You're an action guy, man.
yeah, it's cut down on singing. I started. I got to get this.
All right,
off.
let's take 'em off.
Are we
Let's-
6 feet away?
Let's take, yes, we're 6 feet
Okay.
away.
What's your Twitter handle, Mark?
At Mark Ticky Smith. Okay. You guys are going to have to explain how all this works. I did put. I was working on a couple of stories and had to. So that's why I'm a little late here. I had to get
No
things out.
problem. We know you're always working on
Yeah,
something.
something, but usually
Our
not
goal
good.
is, as we want you to be a regular on the show. I've talked to John about this, and we want you to be a regular. We want you know, like for example, Sebastian's a regular,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not here all the time.
He's irregular or irregular? Is that why he's not here? He's irregular tonight?
You know, prior to his, you know, he's in a health kick right now. Have you seen him
Yeah,
lately?
he told me he's lost 40 pounds.
He's sexy as heck, man. He's getting into his, you know, 4X underwear these days.
Oh man, I gotta
You know,
see that. Not,
oh, yeah.
you know, not
You know,
with
he's-
pants on, maybe.
Oh
not the
man,
underwear.
he's sexy, man. You know, the other day for the first time he wore yoga pants, and needless to say, it's a certain. You have to have a certain taste for Sebastian in yoga pants to find it attractive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
we
well,
call
there are
them.
people that eat monkey brains too. So
Yeah.
you know, a little for everybody, whatever. you know.
We call Sebastian in yoga pants heavy duty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a heavy duty look.
Well,
But he's looking great.
Yeah, he said he's walking a lot.
He is walking every night. He's walking, but we also have, you know, we have a few regulars. Adam Deal comes on. You know,
Yeah.
not every day, but he comes on when he's.
Voice much better than mine. He's got
You know,
that broadcaster.
He's not as handsome as you, though. He's not as handsome as you.
You know,
He's not
I'd have
as
given
handsome.
him a run 30 years ago, but no more. No
Nah,
more.
his nose is crooked, and it makes the whole face. It's off. You know, it doesn't makes the whole face off balance.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So if there's no video, no live stream, then you go, hey man, hey, this is Adam Deal, shot out of the cannon. Then you go, this guy sounds like he's sharp. But when you got the video there, no. He looks like a guy that, you know, went into the MMA ring one time and got his face rearranged, retired right after that.
And made the right move.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Retired right
yeah.
after that and went into broadcasting.
Yeah.
That's what it looked, because his nose is sideways. You know that. Come on, you know his nose is sideways.
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
I
if you
can't
told
get,
you told him sniff this drink,
yeah.
right? This is how we would do it. Most of us would have to go like this, right? Adam goes like this.
You know, Adam, if you're watching, I have to tell you, I never get past looking at your eyes, man. I can't. I've yet to see that nose. I do have a wedding. I do have a wedding ring on, just in case. Hey, no, I don't know. Well, we can talk. We'll talk about a lot of stuff, I guess. But a lot of people are doing. Is this a podcast or a video cast?
Both.
Both.
Okay,
This is
so
both.
a podcast
Video
is
cast, yeah,
just
Just
without
audio.
video.
Just
Okay.
audio,
Just
See, I'm
audio,
learning
yeah.
a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff. But I have a lot of people that have asked me, you know, to be guests here and there. And the thing that I want to do, because I was on with you guys
Right.
the one time, is, you know, everybody's got their faults. And I'm a schmuck in a lot of ways, and I annoy people in a lot of ways. But I think as far as and you can tell me if I'm wrong with this, which I'm not, but I've established myself as a guy who's not going to BS and who's going to dig into things.
That's the reason why we want you to be a regular.
Well, and that's what I've told some of these other folks is, look, I don't want to get into something where it's going to screw up what little reputation I have of at least being honest and professional. And I like the way you guys handled the thing the last time I was on, but I don't want to get into some fly-by-night type of situation where people are going to go.
We're thrilled that you're here.
Yes.
You know we're dead serious in what we do.
Yeah,
We've had great, wonderful guests. After I saw you the other day, I bumped into Holly Holmes.
Oh yeah.
And talked to her about coming on here, and told her that Stefan Bonner's been on the show, Diego Sanchez has been on the show. I've interviewed Carlos Conduit. We've had some MMA, giants on the show. And, when we have our athletes on, Mark, when we have our coaches on, we don't really talk to them like, say, this is not a show like other shows. We'll talk to them about leadership, motivation. We'll talk to them about who their best coach has been in their career, who their worst coach has been in their career. What is your message to young people? What is the key to your success? We don't go, I told Holly, we won't say, what happened in that fight, 2 fights ago, or...
I will, though. That's okay,
and so when we talk to coaches, we want people that listen, they tune in for 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Be enlightened, be empowered, want to find out some things. That's why what you bring to the table is enormous, because you look at it through clear eyes. And, one of the things...
Glaucoma aside.
Yeah, right.
And this one is virtually just a shade below.
Legalize marijuana.
We can talk about that sometime.
Right here in Albuquerque.
I've lost most of the vision, as you know, on this
They
eye, which
say
really
it
is
cures
tough
glaucoma.
to write. But I can talk. I can speak still. So.
That's what John tells me because of his glaucoma.
I do.
He pushes,
You have glaucoma too?
I won't.
But he won't because he wants
It's
the
preventative
legalization. He wants the legalization of
It's a
legalized
prophylactic.
marijuana.
Yeah, we can talk about that
who
sometime.
sings that, John? Let's see, John. Who sings that? Legalize marijuana.
I don't know that one.
I don't
I'll
either.
have to Google
Down
lyrics.
here in Jamaica.
Oh, okay, well. Okay,
We're
so-
into the Marley type of stuff. and
genre,
that.
yeah.
They say it kills
I'm a pop music guy.
glaucoma.
So throw out any of those. Well, I was on a point, but I have no idea what it was.
He was
So
talking
when
about,
I
you were
look
talking
at, what do I
about-
look at?
You
Do
were
I just
talking
look
about your
straight?
glaucoma.
No, you have a camera that you can see exactly what's being broadcast right now, so you can see the studio.
And this will be.
It's live right now.
It's live now, but then you can go back and watch it and stuff.
We have it,
oh,
we have
I
it
know
right
what
now on
I
YouTube.
Did
We
you?
have it
Yeah. Did you go live? Make sure he goes live on his pages.
Yeah, we can.
Well, what I was going to say is, on one of the stories that I just posted, I threw a little thing on
you're
saying
gonna be
that I
on the
would be
Champions
on
Corner.
this, but I didn't know how to tell people what to do. I said Champions Corner on Facebook,
Yep.
right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
So,
put all those links on your Twitter and on your social media.
Why don't
so-
we? Is there a plug here? And I can.
which do you need?
Just if I could get an outlet
right
to
here.
keep this going.
Okay, there we go. Good plug right here.
That's not Francis Albert.
Tiki, you remember me, right? I'm Aiden Chavez's dad.
Oh yeah. Oh, well,
I helped you. Remember we wrote the article? You
Yeah.
wrote
Long-time coach. Yeah. Okay. I didn't make the quick association.
Yeah,
what a
you
great
wrote an
kid.
amazing article about my kid. That
Thanks.
was best still. Yeah, so he was my son was the Week 1 Dream Style Player of the Week, and you wrote an amazing article on him. So
Yeah,
that
you
was great.
guys were very hospitable out there, and I think I told you at that time I really had a good feeling being out there and around all that. It'd been I don't get around the high school stuff as much. This guy, you're endorsing something that I would not put this on my site.
I would. Glaucoma is a debilitating disease,
Yeah.
and we literally need to do whatever we can to alleviate the pressure of glaucoma.
Well,
And
let
that
me-
scourge.
I've had
The scourge of
lot
glaucoma.
of I've had a lot of procedures and operations over the years. They found it when I was young, like 19 years old, and they said, you know, as you get older, you're going to lose sight and this and that and the other. And one of my doctors, who probably wouldn't mind if I named him, but I
Name him.
won't, he used to always tell me, you know, there's medical marijuana, and even in the days long before. But I used to give a lot of anti-drug talks when I was on TV back in the day, and it just, I'm not trying to BS. I don't BS. It's just not my thing. I drink probably more than I should have, and now I love my wine and stuff. It's not out of the realm. I just not
Ticky at
an
our
advocate
age.
at this point.
Ticky at our age, there's no, I shouldn't do it as much. We
No.
need to do it more.
Well, I gotta-
At our age, we need to do it more. Whatever it is, we need to do more.
Well,
our
the other,
age.
you know, my son just turned 10, which is amazing for
That
this
is
age.
good for you, brother.
And you
Good
know,
for you.
I talk to him about everything, but it would be really hard for me to tell him, look, I don't want you doing this or that at this age or whatever, if he sees me sitting around the house. And I was going to say, puffing on stuff. I've never even, and no one out there would ever be able to
Disagree with this.
Disagree. I've never had a puff of a cigarette in my
Really?
life.
Okay.
Now, I'm not a clean, it's not like I'm a clean, wholesome guy. I've made ungodly mistakes in my life, and I
As we have
continue
all.
to. But I don't want to put anything in my lungs. So the thing I would consider now, and we can talk about, we can talk about whenever.
Edibles, other things, or oil. Different. There's different vehicles that you're able to get the medicine.
Yeah, and I've tried CBD stuff on joints and things like that, and I'm not too much. I think one cream that I tried that does seem to work, and I don't know. I'd like to try a placebo against it to see, like, have my wife put something on me and not let me know, because I really do believe in the mental aspect of
absolutely.
things. You know, as you're going through sports your whole life, you know that how much you can influence your body to do things. So I don't know, but you know, people. I'm an independent, as you know. We've talked about my whole life been a registered independent. If you were to put me in any kind of category, I'd probably be a libertarian. And I absolutely believe in people's freedom to do what the heck they want, as long as it's not screwing with somebody. And if people want to enjoy whatever they want to enjoy at home, more power to them. I don't care. I just don't know if it's for me.
So I can make a sort of a transition, but stay connected to that, because I look at the death of J.B. White, and it's tragic, but I also think it's a byproduct of the war on drugs. So you have a kid there that he's been a drug dealer. How he got a firearm, that's a question I want to know. But had we have decriminalization, is there a kid that's like that? Because drugs create criminals. So just like in the 1920s, I mean, you make alcohol illegal. So what? Now that opens up an entire industry to criminals. So you're sort of saying, well, you're a libertarian. Well, okay, well then I think you use alcohol prohibition and say, okay, it failed there, and all it did is create criminals and drove up the price. I look at the war on drugs, and I think it's created the same exact thing.
You know, I really try to do a lot of research and look at both sides of everything and see why do people want it legalized here? Why don't these want it here? And I really try to learn what you can't learn much talking to different sides in this day and age. And it's really hard to be a guy who loves a debate. But I don't really have an opinion on that, and I'm not trying to avoid that. I'm still trying to formulate exactly what I think about the whole legalizing marijuana, because I don't really, one way or the other, I haven't felt it myself. I just am telling you what I don't want in me right now, but that doesn't mean for others.
Right.
The JB White thing, I've got a lot of thoughts in the last few days. Now, I've not investigated this, just gotten a little casual inside information here and there. I don't really know a whole lot. In fact, I just got something with a friend of mine sent me the Santa Fe, New Mexican story that came out today with the criminal complaint in the parking lot, literally right before I ran in. I just retweeted it.
Right.
I know that I haven't even read it closely. It's at Mark Ticky Smith. I just put it on. They didn't have a lot of details, but the retweet I made, and I'll read you exactly what I put.
He's bringing it up on screen now.
Well, we can discuss some of this because
I've been waiting to hear. I know the sheriff announced on Sunday that they will, in the police report,
Try him as an adult.
Try him as an adult and include what the altercation was about.
See, that to me,
there's on screen now.
Important.
What you retweeted.
Yeah, and I put a little comment that, well, I'll tell you exactly what I wrote here as I was literally running in here, but and people, and we can go into that. I said I'm on the outside looking in with this story, but I understand the delicacy of it. I just hope the media provides all key details, which is not always the case with high-profile Lobo athletes.
Right.
And i.e. specifically Jackson Weller, the baseball player who was shot and killed. Not that he was high profile at the time. Nobody knew him, but it turned into this sensationally high. And to this day, as you know, Coach and John, I don't know if you're aware, I did a whole investigative series on that ran last year and got picked up some places nationally.
Right.
The local
pissed
media
a few people off.
You got me almost said a bad word.
We can say bad words.
I know.
George Carlin 7. Yeah, we say them all.
I just try, even podcast video castingville, I'm going to try to make that my staple, that I'm going to try to watch this tongue. Not that I don't blast every other word.
Well, here's the thing.
Let me finish real quickly, though. So no other media still has written the truth behind what happened with Jackson Weller. My stories are still the only ones that put radio station Eddie Aragon, and I don't think you guys compete with this and that,
not
right?
With Eddie, no.
But he actually was the only one who said what was going on. Saw the video, I'm pretty sure he saw the video. I saw the surveillance video numerous times over days and days, hours and hours, and I still am just shocked that everyone's afraid to touch the story. But Jackson Weller was not some kid. He wasn't even a kid. He's 23 too. Was just simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. That wasn't all of it, And so I am very curious about this situation, because the first thing you hear, the guy's out at 3:30 in the morning at this party that we still don't know if anyone at the party was living at this house or whatever. And I mean, the very, very first thing, my first reaction Saturday morning was, this is going to be gang related, something like that.
What I thought, I was informed by my dear friend Tim McCorkle, who was friends with Santa Fe High School's principal. I had a 5-hour meeting with Tim on Saturday, and when he told me about it, I was in shock. I hadn't heard about it yet. He told me around 9 a.m., 8:45 a.m. And my first response was, when Kim told me the time that this, this tragedy happened, I was, what is he doing out at that time? There was a saying, and like I'm sure a lot of fathers did, this weekend,
Had a
sat
discussion with
down
your
and
parent.
talked with your boys.
Very first thing I did.
I did too. So.
We've all been told and used it as fathers with our children. Nothing good ever happens after midnight. Ever happens after midnight. And the one thing that I just been tearing myself up because it's tragic. And when you have a tragedy like this and it affects people from all corners of the state, when you have a tragedy like this and it affects young people, in every city in New Mexico, it affects young people. When you have a tragedy like this, and the New York Post reports on it, you just go, please, let's not it be gang-related, drug-related, alcohol-related, because of the uselessness of it, because of the, the absolute waste of what could have been a magical life. Please don't make it something that couldn't be avoided, because at 3:30 in the morning, when an altercation happens in the house and it moves to the outside of the house, it could have been avoided.
It could have been avoided. It's
You know what I'm saying? The tragedy of what that community is going to go through in the next 2 weeks, what the student athletes of this state are going to go through in the next 2 weeks, what the coaches in all sports of this state's going to go through in the next 2 weeks could have been avoided. Please tell me that. And I get emotional about it because you got to fight back crying over it, because my goodness,
and everybody's gonna throw out something needs to be done,
right?
But nobody takes the bull by the horns and gets something done. And I thought it was really a touch of irony that on the Saturday morning that the paper came out, there's a story that morning about defunding the police in Santa Fe, and now we've had our fourth teenager, high school kid shot and killed in the Santa Fe area in the last couple of months.
I talked to Sebastian Saturday. Sebastian, obviously, I've always teased Sebastian because, he does a remarkable job. He loves high school athletes, and he's been bragging about JB for years.
Yeah.
He's been bragging about it, to the point I used to tease him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, he did. He
fool around with, move to, college guys and, pro guys, just teasing him because he so loves the, giving these kids exposure.
Any other details? First thing I did, very first thing, I went in my son's bedroom and I said, Brock, listen, here's another one of those deals. Every time I see anybody a high school kid who dies and there's nothing written about why, I always tell Brock, it's either suicide or drugs. And I've just been trying to pound it into his head since he was old enough to think, if there's ever a situation, you have to come to me. We have a rule now. I told him that when he gets older, he's going to get people with bad influences around him.
Peer pressure, that's
right.
called.
And if you ever get stuck in any kind of situation, call me. It doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what's going on. I will pick you up. I will not discipline you at all that night. We will not talk about it. I will get you out of it. We'll wait. We'll put you to bed. The next day we'll deal with the circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, he is such a trusting kid and trustworthy. Right. He's 10 though,
and he's still a baby.
And you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But I use every one of these. And if there are details, I don't know. I mean, the first thing I thought of was something gang related. And now we're hearing about the guy being probably some gang related things, right? So
Being arrested for drug possession,
Right.
with intent to distribute, and being found with a BB gun, even though like the person that came on, yeah.
So I want the media. I will challenge our media out there, and I haven't been investigating this. Just so few things that are coming in. I sure hope we hear the details. It's not good for the community when kids hang themselves and the media covers it up and won't say what happened. It's not good to try to cover up anything that might have happened. I don't know if anything, but I do know it was 3:30 in the morning.
We have to, in reality, you're right. Tippy.
And
we
you can
have to,
help
in
people.
reality, give meaning to this young man's life.
And if he's doing,
And
if
give
there's-
meaning to the end of this young man's life. We have to give meaning to it. And it's a teachable moment.
Yeah,
It's a teachable,
that's-
and one of the things that I will never accept from Orion, him being out at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't care if he's 21. If he's living under my roof, he is not going to be out at 3:30 in the morning, and that's if he's 30. Hopefully he's not living under my roof at 30.
Yeah,
you know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
like I said,
But it is going to, I mean, it is, it's tragic. And I just wish that this young man would understand the power of peer pressure, man. Everybody runs into it, including all of us. The statistics of somebody smoking for the first time because of peer pressure is
Yeah.
out of the roof. Someone drinking for the first time because of peer pressure is out, the numbers are out, off the charts. And one of the things that I tell Orion all the time is peer pressure kills. Peer pressure kills, and too many times we say, wrong place, wrong time.
yeah,
Wrong place, wrong time. Baloney.
bingo. A guy told me that Saturday, and I said, yeah, no kidding. 3:30 a.m. is the wrong place, the wrong time for any place. That's just. And have I stayed out that late? Have I partied out late? I actually not as a kid, not in high school and or college, but as an adult, you get into some trouble. Nothing like what seems like it was going on there.
I'm not a goody two shoes, but since my children have been in this world, I have not been out at 3:30 in the morning.
You know what? It's
because nothing good happens after midnight.
well, I'll tell you, I kind of smiled when you started saying that because we all say that. This is how smart. I'm hoping when I met Aiden last year, I told my son all about him, and I said, "This is the kind of kid." I had him read the story, and I talked to all about. This is the kind of kid I want you to model yourself after. He's not going to be an athlete.
How about
like
that honor?
But he just was so well spoken, and everything
He's
that
an
he was
impressive
telling me,
kid.
this is the kind of kid. And I told Brock, this is how, your goal is to be someone like this, well-rounded and just has it together with all of this, right? But when I told Brock this, I don't know, it was I think 2 summers ago the first time, and my wife and I said something about that with nothing good happens after midnight, and this is how smart this kid is. He said, well, that's not right, Dad. I said, what do you mean? He goes, everything good happens after midnight. Everything bad happens after midnight. Midnight starts the day, Dad. I said, wow, you're pretty smart, you little bugger. But he gets the concept.
I would have
But
said,
it's-
get away from me, you little bastard.
You're
Get away
defeating
from
my
me.
purpose.
You know exactly what.
Right, my wife and I, Rob, we just like, this kid's too much. And he, you know, at the time he was 8 years old.
Yeah.
He
But,
literally understood the.
He's like, he's something. I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
and so one of the things that unfortunately, and we say these things because we don't want to say anything disparaging about victims. We don't want to say anything, you know, it's hard to, because everybody hurts, and especially in this, everybody's hurting in this. You know, my 7 years here, I don't think I can recount anything to the point where the state, you know, is mourning the loss. We've had some loss with athletes here. Football players at UNM tragically losing hope in life. The Weller situation. Nothing like this, though, that I can recall in my time here where so many people are affected by, you know, I was melancholy on Saturday, you know, thinking about it because my son knew JB, you know, and so he was obviously upset by it, you know, because he knew, you know, he's hung out in the past with JB.
Well,
And so it affects all of us.
yeah, I guess the biggest point, and this would be something that I really wanted to say for a column, but we're opening up about it. Am I good? My volume on this?
Oh, yeah.
Look
No,
like
you're
this?
good.
Is, you know, everyone wants to see something accomplished from this. Well, to me, the biggest thing that people can accomplish, you can battle about gun laws, you can battle about what kids were supposed to be doing, there's a lot of things that are issues. Yeah, I get it. But the one thing that really could be beneficial is if all of the facts come out and people then say, look, here's how this could have been avoided. Please learn from it. That's why I get really annoyed when you see the suicides in this state are going bonkers, and like everywhere
In every
with
state.
high schools.
Yep.
But covering that up, be the parent. Those parents in Hops whose 11-year-old kid shot himself a week ago, they came out and said they wanted to talk about this to help. Maybe it'll help one other kid, some other kid's parents. You know, don't mask things. If there's anything there, please, let's hear about. So maybe there's some signs.
It's an epidemic on our reservations. It's on our reservation. Oh, it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic in our non-reservation communities. It's an epidemic. It's like one does it, you know there's going to be backlash. You know you're going to visit this again, you know, soon. It's an epidemic, obviously, in the military. You know, that's something. But losing this young man the way we lost him, you know, is just unfathomable.
Yeah.
You know, losing this young man the way we've lost him. Unfathomable. And we need to, we started this conversation because the first thing that I thought of when it happened, and I told Orion, my son, we've all talked to our boys on this, is, number one, why are kids out at 3:30 in the morning? Kids in general. Is it because alcohol, marijuana, those things are available? I understand that when we talk about the legalization of marijuana, alcohol is legal. I understand that. I understand why kids...
Probably not for most of those guys in there.
no,
They'll
yeah.
think about that too.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
know the reason why kids get high. Because they get buzzed. And getting buzzed is good. It feels good when you're buzzed up. It feels good, you know. But what young people don't understand when it comes to that is that buzz lasts how long? Half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and then what happens? The crash. And to deal with the crash with kids, what do they have to do? They either...
Do more or...
Exactly. They have to do more. Now, my challenge with it is, I don't mind, it's none of my business how people live their life anyway, but if you're smoking marijuana at 40, 50, 60, 70, that's your business. Your brain is developed already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so maybe then at that point it has medicinal value. to it. My concern with it is, what if you're young and your brain isn't developed yet? Does it affect the developed mind? Because it just so seems like when you smoke, say, from 15 to 35, you can tell those kind of people who have smoked that long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So did it affect the developed mind? So kids are out at 3:30 in the morning, and for someone to lose their faculties about them, their straight thinking about them, their humanness about them, to pull out a gun and shoot somebody multiple times, point blank range, and you're only 16 years old. To me, there had to have been some usage that would let that young person lose his faculties.
Yeah, that's just that to me is.
There's a
another
difference
thing
in
that's-
stealing. There's a difference in dealing than pulling a trigger and taking a human life.
Yeah, I don't get that part. What goes on in someone's mind that they know this is going to change their life too? You know,
Forever.
I mean, forever. I don't. How do you make that kind of decision like that? But yeah, there's so many of these kids now. And, you know, who knows about the video game aspects, but I do worry about some of that because killing becomes so easy in this
They
fake
become
world.
they become desensitized,
Yes.
desensitized to it. But
And remember,
but
with
again-
these killing games, John, with these killing games, where did these killing games start? With the military. The military had them in the 70s and 80s, and they used it to desensitize their people in the military when it came to, you know, having to take a life.
simple it is to pull
you
a
know,
trigger,
having to take a life. So, and they used that. And now look
That's a
where
heck
it's
of a
at.
point.
And also, too, listen, I understand we're in lockup, and I understand our kids are locked up a lot of times in this COVID, quarantining. That's not an excuse to be out in mass
Yeah.
at 3:30 in the morning.
That's kind of a BS excuse is what it was to me. You
Yeah.
know, these are kids doing what they would have done had there not been a lot.
yeah, because they would still be doing it. Yeah.
Has it
it's-
come out
that's
the
just
origins
crap.
of this party yet? Because obviously it's spread. Because how many kids did they say attended this party?
70 is what has been reported.
So
And,
obviously the word got out that there
yeah.
was going to be a party.
And I still don't know. Nobody has reported, it was a house under renovation, but were kids that lived at that house having it, or was it a vacant house?
Vacant house.
Yeah,
because
don't know.
to me, there's culpability. So if you're the homeowner and you're allowing kids to do those things,
they'll be.
Oh no.
they'll
Never
be-
mind at 3:30 in the morning, but during COVID.
You got to assume. I hate that word. Assume. I never asked of you and me.
Yes.
But you got to think that whoever owned it didn't know this thing was going on. If they did, they're going to be in incredible trouble.
Or the person that purchased the firearm, because you have to be 21 years old in this state to buy a handgun, and why was a 16-year-old having a handgun? And right?
Yeah, I mean, they're all over the place. They're coming up with these things,
And listen, I tell my son all the time now, my son size-wise is a monster. Size-wise.
he's a good bodyguard.
I tell him all the time, listen, you like to go to parties. When I was a kid, and there was a scuffle when I was a kid, you knew it was skin on skin.
Yeah.
There was not going to be knives. There was not going to be
Right.
guns. The rules were set.
Yeah.
It was skin. We're going skin. We're not doing anything. And so that's gone away with the dodo bird.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I told my son, you don't let anybody use you for your size. You don't let anybody, because when you take somebody's back, you don't know what the other guy's got.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you got a 16-year-old and an Orion who's, is effectively a man size, 275 pounds, a man size, he's going to go, I'm not letting this kid get his hands on me. I'm pulling something.
Yeah.
That's the culture that we're in now. That's the culture of 3:30 in the morning. That's the culture. How do you think any otherwise?
Yeah. And with the 3 others being killed up there recently,
Yeah.
it's not just this is a fluke thing. It's just happening way too much.
Yeah.
And in our day too, and when you're talking about the skin on skin, could you imagine, if 2 guys get in a fight and one of them pulled out a knife or a gun in our day? Everyone on both sides of whatever the equation would jump on that guy, and he'd be an outcast for life.
Would that be the erosion of our morals, where life is no longer respected? They don't respect taking a life anymore. They don't understand because their brains haven't been formulated yet. Because every time I've seen a documentary or something on the inside of a penitentiary of young boys who now have become men in the penitentiary, they look back and say, how many times have we seen a documentary? I wish there was somebody to tell me when I was 16, don't do this. You're going to regret it. You're going to have to live with this the rest of your life. You're going to have to, don't do it. You're throwing your life away,
But Jack kind of brought up this in the earlier show, and he talked about how he thought everybody under the age of 33 is soft. I don't blame the kids because I've been a teacher now. This is my 22nd year of education. It's parents that are soft.
Yes.
Too many of them are soft. Too many
Parents want to be friends with their kids.
Yeah. And it's also a byproduct of our economic system. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we had an economy that revolved around manufacturing. So one person would go off and work, and the family unit was stronger back then. Less divorces, less kids being raised by single parents. Okay, and there aren't. You talk about the bell curve, because my kids are those aberrations because I'm a divorced dad and I raise them. We have firearms in the house. My kids play violent video games. But by the same token, I've taught them how to handle a firearm, how to respect a firearm, how, we've talked about those things about taking a life or putting yourself in those situations. But how many kids don't have that person telling them this is right or wrong,
That's
or
huge.
these are your choices and these are your consequences.
Yeah. No,
I
you
think
can't.
even the system, though, Mark, the system has allowed us not to be strong parents anymore because
Yeah,
the kids
that's
know.
true.
The kids know. You hit me, I'm calling the cops. You get physical with me, I'm calling the cops. You get, and so many people will say, like, you can't be raised the way you were raised, like the way I was raised. I stepped out of line with the men in my family. I got put back in line.
Yeah.
I got put back in line. I'll tell a story that I think I've told before, but a long time ago, okay? I was 6 years old. And I was with me and another friend, and one of the two, we were both brilliant at 6 years old. One of us came up with the idea, I don't remember, hey, there's butts on the ground. We didn't call them butts. We were like, what's these things on the ground that people are smoking? And we started picking up these butts, and one of us had matches. And so we were lighting them up like butts on the ground that we were lighting up. Well, unbeknownst to me, one of my friends went to my house and told my mother, Dominic is smoking. Do you remember this story?
No, I've never.
Dominic is smoking. I didn't know this, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
I come home. We never used the front door. Life was different back then. This is in the New York City area. Never used the front door. We go to the back door. Well, my mother was back there grilling dinner. That night we were eating steak. Back then we ate steak. And so she was cooking the steaks on the grill, right? She said, Dominic, come here. And I went over to her and she said, I want to ask you a question. What, Ma? Were you smoking? And I always had the ability to think. That's why I became a coach, to be able to think in a crisis situation. And I said to myself, before I answered, she's asking for a reason.
Yeah.
And
It's like the FBI questioning you.
if she's
She already
asking
knows
for
the
a
answer.
reason, and if I lie to her, I'm going to be even in more trouble. I didn't even think going, well, if I said no, she could have smelled my fingers or smelled my breath that year. I didn't even think it. I just went, she's asking for a reason. And so I went, yes. And she had the steak fork.
She
And
put your face on the
she
grill.
started whomping me. Whop, 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 on my shoulder. Whop, 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 whop. Blood poured down my arm. I still have the scars. Blood poured down my arm, dripping off my hand. Now, if she did that today, she'd be arrested.
She should have been then.
They would be calling family members to come take me. And you make the statement she should have been them. But I'm going to tell you the ending of the story.
All right.
That was the last day I ever had a cigarette in my mouth. That's the last day I ever had a cigarette in my mouth. And I don't walk around twitching and hitting my kids with steak forks because I'm a dysfunctional person, because I was abused. And it was the last day I ever had a cigarette in my mouth. So you tell me, what was more healthier for me? A lifetime worth of smoking? Or her hitting me that one day and just putting some scars on me as the blood was going down.
I'm kind of in the middle of that one, but you know, a lot of I don't know if we talked about my father. Manny Smith, who is community,
I don't think we ever talked. We got to talk about that.
He was a principal. An APS for 40 years and state handball champ for 9 years in a row, city champ 11 years in a row, an actor, one of the most well-known actors in this town. He was a very, very well-known figure. How I was raised with him, and this is what I do with Brock, you get a lot of ideas when you're an older parent. You get to formulate things. We had a board of correction that he had, and if we did things horribly incorrectly, he always sat down, he discussed what was wrong with it and what your punishment would be, and you had to turn around and you had to get whacked with the board, sign the board, write a note about what it was. I had two or three, I can't
Signatures
remember.
On there.
But it's the same theory, but never that reaching out overreaction.
Yeah.
It was always sit down, and I've done that with Brock, and we're on tape, so I don't know if I can get arrested. But he's gotten a spanking before.
You know, my uncle used to
3 years
say,
old.
he's no longer with us, but my uncle used to do with his children and his grandchildren. He used to say, if stupidity was against the law, and in society when you break laws are punishable offenses, I'm fining you $15, for stupidity. Because, when our minds aren't developed, we haven't matured yet, we're always going to side with the side of stupidity.
Yeah.
We can all scratch our head in our lifetime and go, what in the world was I thinking? But what we've done is we're not teaching our kids, and I'm generalizing now, I'm not saying specifically, I'm generalizing. We haven't taught our kids the strength and thick skin and the power of making good decisions and the not fearing making a bad decision. We don't teach them that now. We teach them, it's okay.
Or everybody gets a participation trophy.
My oldest son, Frankie, one of the loves of my life, we were out to breakfast one time. He was about 9 years old, and we were in a restaurant for breakfast, crowded restaurant, and the waitress had a hot pot of coffee. Walking behind him, just so happened that he turned around by just timing, didn't look where he was going, and the waitress's skill set helped in not having her bump into him and burn him with hot coffee. The waitress's skill set. So I scoffed him on the head. Always be aware of your surroundings.
Yep.
Okay? Scoffed him. A little scoff. Did that hurt? I'm sorry.
I'm not traumatized. I'm good.
A little scoffing on the head.
Yeah.
And the people in that restaurant looked like I hit him with an overhand right. Like, how could he scoff that? You didn't think scoff that. You see what he did? Meanwhile, our kids now know hit me, and I'm calling the cops.
Anytime I hear that, I think of the George Lopez.
Have you heard it?
Oh no, I've heard where kids, not my kids, because they know because I always tell them the George Lopez joke. Well, you hit me, well, you better call an ambulance before, because then call the cops because hey, you know what? You better call an ambulance before.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the new age garbage parent raising has just screwed things up so bad. And I have a case.
But it's not just the parents; it's the schools. The schools are just as bad as the parents because a student can go there. Let's say he's mad. Let's say, Aiden's mad at you. You wouldn't let him go out with his girlfriend. You wouldn't want to. He can go to school and go, you know what? Dang it. Tired of my dad beating on me.
Yeah. And you're going to be thrown.
You're
going to be
getting a
arrested
visit.
before
You're getting a visit. You're getting a visit. Now, how do I know this? My oldest son was about 9 years old, and I'm sitting in our house in Oklahoma, and this pickup truck pulls up, and it has a state of Oklahoma emblem on it. And the lady in the truck goes, "I'm looking for Dominic Bramante." And I said, "Well, you found him." And, I'm a coach. And I'm just sitting outside, relaxing, enjoying the end of the day, this and that. And she said, is there any way I can ask you any questions? So what do I think automatically? It's the media. And so I went, "What newspaper do you work for?" And she went, "No, I work for the state. And I need to ask you some questions like, how do you and Orion get along?"
Oh, God.
Not Orion. Frankie. How do you and Frankie get along? Me and Frankie get along. We get along fine. And what type of punishment do you give when who do you work with? And she told, "I work with child services." And I went, "Why are you here? A complaint's been made that maybe you and Frankie aren't getting along." Who made the complaint? "Oh, I'm not at liberty to tell you this. You're here, and the complaint." With that, our daughter walked around from the back of the house. I was sitting in the carport. She walked around and she said something to me. I don't remember, but this person said, "There were other kids in the house?" "Yeah, 5. And she went, "Wow, where is Frankie now?" And I said, "He's fishing." And he was fishing at the time with his cousin. We live out on the lake. And she said, "Oh, you let him go fishing?" And I said, "Ma'am, do you know that this is trust land, this is reservation land?" And she said, "It is?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "She's out of her jurisdiction." So she went, "Oh, I'm sorry, that changes things, puts things back in a thing," and backs out. So I said to her, "Can you please tell me, being that there's no jurisdiction here, who made the complaint?" "The school nurse."
What had happened?
And so she leaves, and I'd say I'm seething now.
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, what this boy do? What'd he do? He comes home from fishing with his cousin, and I said, "Frankie, can you tell me why I got a visit from Child Services today?" And automatically his head dropped. And I said, "What did you do?" And he went, "I didn't think they'd come out." He's like 9 years old.
Yeah.
"I didn't think they'd come out here this quick." "You didn't think who? What did you do?" "I went to the school nurse. I was mad at your dad because I said no to him about something. I was mad at your dad and said, I'm tired of my dad beating on me." And I went, "Oh my God." And that's the thing where, everything now is they err with the side of the kid. But okay, if I'm beating on him, look for the bruises.
Yeah.
Do something. Look for the signs. Because all you're doing is empowering these young people to tell their parents, "You're taking that tool away from me. I'm taking that tool away from you."
He took his Xbox away for the night. Oh, I'm going to get him back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Beaten.
And that's the thing where the
Scares me.
system has changed.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things I was going to talk about, back to
Just get a
need to
little
get
closer, yeah.
back to
just
something else with my father. That he, he was a principal in the days when they still had corporal punishment in the
Paddles, yeah.
schools, and I don't know when, probably sometime in the 70s,
Yeah, it has
maybe
to
got
be,
rid of them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe late 60s, even, I don't know. But he said, and I can't, I think it was at, I want to say Lowell Elementary at the time, but he said that once corporal punishment was taken out of the schools, that's when guns started showing up and knives started showing up. That he had never seen one in the schools before as a principal until corporal punishment was taken out. But just the threat of that. And you know what? I honestly don't know if he ever spanked a kid in school. I'm sure he did. I never got spanked by a principal. I got one by a gym coach once, which was a screwed up thing. But I don't know how I feel about corporal punishment in the schools, because I think it would help that you would keep kids more straightened out. But at the same time, would I ever want a stranger spanking my son? I have to say no. I could see where that's controversial.
Where I think it's a systemic thing, because the kids that probably benefit from it are the ones that don't have a strong structure at home that teaches them choices and consequences.
Yeah.
So he probably saw, okay, well, those kids that I paddle, they're probably not getting paddled at home, or they're not getting disciplined at home. So this is filling in those cracks that they don't have. So he was probably right that he saw the negative influences of not having corporal punishment in school, because now you have children that are running around schools that don't have that structure at home, that aren't told, okay, well, you do this, here are the consequences. Okay, so if they lack those things, that's
just
Adam,
the threat of it being
absolutely,
there.
absolutely. I know for sure there'd be times when I was raising my sons, and I never ever tried to be like
Right.
just be that, because
Came a little close that time. Felt the breeze.
Yeah. So I never wanted
6 feet apart. You got 6 foot arms. I could see.
I never wanted that to be that type of, because I never ever wanted them to ever flinch around me like that.
Right.
So I would tell them, okay, go in the bathroom, put your hands on the tub. And a lot of times that's all I would have to do. I'd never even have to follow through with it. And they'd lose their mind because they knew what could happen there. And it was almost the threat of it that affected them. So I could see exactly where your father would see that correlation, because for those kids that don't have good structure at home, or parents that are teachers that are there, all three of us are fathers, and what did we do the minute that happened? But I guarantee that there are young men out there or athletes out there that haven't been spoken to, that didn't use this opportunity as a teachable moment and say, why? Because it could be that they only have one parent at home, or if they do have both parents, both of them are working multiple jobs and are exhausted. So there's some systemic failures that we have as a society that have to, I don't think will be addressed, but those are things that we need to acknowledge,
There's just, and this is something a lot of people will argue and disagree with, but man, the studies all show having a father in the kid's life really makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
And,
huge difference.
I was fortunate. Brock's fortunate. We, all of us here, we know.
Or male influences in their life, So like you said, your uncle made a difference, right? Because he was able to instill things and teach you things, and I know that there are women out there that they're the only influence in that child life, and then they have to take on and fill both roles.
Yeah.
So there are women out there that are able to do that, but I know firsthand, because, now that I'm a teacher, we went through 3 bits of trainings, and one of the trainings over the summer had to do with, it's called social emotional learning, and then recognizing in kids their adverse childhood experiences. And there's actually an acronym, it's called ACE. And there's a way that the schools now is they ask kids like 10 questions. You know, are they continually being beaten by their parents? Do they, you know, are their parents divorced? Do their parents drink to black out or use illegal substances? And they give them a rating, and they have data now that shows that, you know, if a kid hasn't experienced any of those traumas, it's like a 2% chance that they're gonna experience problems in education, maybe not be successful. But the kids with like 4 and 5s out of those 10, they're like 50% that they're going to experience those problems because they've had those type of traumas in their life, and now it's affecting their ability to learn. It's affecting their ability to function in society. So, you know, the question would I would look at the kid that killed him. What traumas have that kid experienced?
Yeah, I want to hear about all of these
I do
things.
too. I want to know who the parents are,
right?
And what his structure of his family, how he got a gun, why was he involved in drug trafficking,
right?
You know, what things led up to that for him to take another person's life.
And on both sides, I want to hear what JB was doing. You know what, and just all the details could really help someone else down the road.
As far as a teachable moment for other parents to teach.
You know, the fact the guy was a sensational basketball player should not come into the play the way everybody wants to put it in. Because what about the other 3 teenagers recently who were shot and killed? You know, the same notoriety should be going for all of them if we're going to try to figure some of this stuff out.
Reconnect.
But, you know, and I didn't even mention when I was talking about my upbringing. My parents were divorced, I think, what was that, about 11? I think it was about 11. But my dad was always there. He was always there, you know, and it was one of these deals where, you know, my mother called him anytime we did something wrong because, you know, wait till I tell your father. And he was always there. We were the most important thing in his life. You know, my 2 sisters and I.
And sadly, those situations I think are outliers. Too many kids don't experience that.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the ones, unfortunately, that fall through the cracks, and then they become the statistics in our society.
You know, one of the things that we talked about capital, one of the things that we talk about capital punishment in the schools. Well, my oldest son got spanked in school.
Corporal punishment.
Corporal punishment. That's what, not capital. Corporal.
And you got Capital High School and mines
and so my son got, you know, corporal punishment. Got himself innocently in trouble, you know. And I believe, if we can get him to call in, I believe the story was he mooned a teacher. And the unfortunate part of what he did was he mooned her on game day. And the game day football player, the athletic director,
so he gave
the teacher
her a game
didn't get
face.
mad. The teacher thought it was hilarious and laughed about it, and was talking about it in the lounge. That the AD happened to be a part of in the lounge. And when the lounge heard that Frankie had mooned her, the AD made it official. And so the AD said, I got to do it. I got to bang you for the game today. You know, it was his senior year. I got to bang you. You're suspended for the game. And, you know, my son went ballistic. You can't do that. You can't this and that. And the AD, being athletic oriented, said, you know, well, there is another alternative. And he said, what? And he said, here's my son, Frankie. And the AD, Frankie.
What's up?
What's happening? Welcome to Champions Corner. You with John Chavez and Mark Ticky Smith. We had a tragedy here this past weekend. The #1 basketball recruit was tragically killed this weekend.
Oh.
And he was shot to death at a party at 3:30 in the morning. And we are discussing that. But what we were discussing, part of it was, you know, corporal punishment in schools. And, you know, it automatically made me think of you because you experienced corporal punishment in school. So I want you to go back and tell our viewers what your experience, and tell, Tiki and John, what your experience was with the corporal punishment then and your mindset on it today.
Oh God. Well, back then I don't know. I don't think I really. I think I was more. I think I wanted to. I was more worried about playing that time. I didn't want to miss my game.
Exactly, and you're the one that made that decision, correct?
I think so.
You never checked in with me. You never told me. You made that decision. I found out after the fact, after you had been paddled. My son is one of those students that have been paddled.
So so Frankie, you got your choice of either being suspended or being punished, paddled. Is that?
Yeah. That was a part of. It was either that or I think I had to get suspended from school. If I was suspended from school, I had I wouldn't be able to play in that upcoming week's game.
What year was this? What year would this have been?
2010, maybe.
So, and what?
2010, 2009.
What school district? What school and district are we?
It's in Caddo County, Oklahoma, Anadarko High School.
So do they still have corporal punishment there now?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so
I don't think there's a lot of
us-
states
tell
left
us
that
your-
have it, though.
Tell us your experience on when you got pat, because really, I'm the one that got mad after the fact, remember? I got mad after the fact because no one ever conferred with me if it was okay to paddle you. What was your experience off the top of your head getting paddled?
First one hurt.
And
The
by the
second
way-
one hurt the worst. And then the third one I couldn't even feel because I was so numb.
Wow.
And what, they paddled you on your cheeks, right? You had to drop your drawers?
Yeah, you had to go down your underwear, yeah. And it was the night of the game, so I wore my Nike Pro Combat girdle. I would wear it under my shorts. So I had that type of material on that made the smack 10 times worse.
Who administered it? Was it the principal or?
The assistant principal at the time, which was also the head baseball coach.
And the athletic director.
The baseball coach.
So
he was
he
the
had a
athletic
good swing.
director.
He had a good swing then. He had a
Yeah,
good
he
cut.
actually broke the paddle. The second swing, he broke the paddle on me.
Oh man! And he still went back for more with another one.
Yeah, he had a backup. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is when he had like a big 6-foot paddle behind his desk that he made everyone sign at the beginning of the year. Like he would repaint it at the beginning of the school year, and he would have whoever got paddled signed. That I think is. I thought that at the time it was funny, but now that I'm thinking about it right now, it's kind of weird. I feel like that would be more demoralizing.
That's old school stuff. I was talking about how my dad was a principal back in the day, but he at home. That's what if we did something really screwed up, it was whack on the back of the butt, and then we had to sign the sucker. You tried to make sure you didn't have your name on there too many times. Did you learn your lesson?
No.
Well,
Did you resent it back then, Frankie? And what's your mindset now?
Well, back then I didn't resent it because, like I said, the only thing I was worried about was being able to play. I knew if I got in trouble at home for what I did to deserve the paddle, it wouldn't be nearly as bad if I had to tell at home that I wasn't going to be able to play in the game.
And who would you have told that to?
Probably you.
so
Probably
that-
not you.
So you would have still gotten the paddling and not played in the game, so
Yeah,
you
I-
definitely.
I didn't hit my kids. I didn't hit.
I think where the school district messed up.
I would hammer them with a lecture. What would have been worse, Frankie, a lecture or the paddle? He's thinking
at the
about
time, the lecture. Knowing what I know now, I'd rather have the lecture. But I mean, I don't know. I think that the school district was at the wrong at the time because, if I'm not mistaken, they wanted to give me the paddle and school suspension, right? They wanted to give me both, but they couldn't give me both. It was either I got one or the other, right?
Right. Because what happened was when you informed me that you've been paddled, where did I go immediately?
Oh God, I don't
I
remember.
went to the
That's
school.
almost 10 years ago.
I was in his office. I wanted to know how come I wasn't conferred with it and those things, and that this, I was upset on how it was brought to anybody's attention to begin with. You mooned one of your favorite teachers. Your favorite teacher laughed, and
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He was trying to play a joke on me, but it backfired, right?
Right. And
That's what happened.
And the AD took it serious. The AD wasn't even around, but he took it serious, and that's what it was. John, when the discussion, Frankie, is, are parents softer today than where they were? This young man was shot at 3:30 in the morning at a party in Santa Fe. He's the number one basketball prospect in the state of New Mexico. He was UNM's number one recruit. He was reporting to UNM next week. And he was out at a party at 3 a.m., got into an altercation inside the party with a 16-year-old. They agreed to go outside from what we've heard so far. And the 16-year-old had a gun and shot him point blank range. And so the question that we were asking was, what were they doing out at 3:30 in the morning? Nothing. What was I used to tell you? Nothing ever good happens after what?
Midnight.
Nothing ever good happens after midnight, right? And so, that's where we talked about, have parents gotten softer or have the kids gotten softer? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like it's a mix of both. I definitely feel like it's a mix of both. I mean,
You've told me point blank, Rays, that you think I've gotten too soft with Orion.
Well, I don't think you got the fire that you had with me that you have with him. But then again, you were also 15 years younger.
Mm-hmm.
You took was Frankie the first?
I definitely took a toll on him. That's for sure. I definitely took a toll on him.
No, there's no doubt. There was, all teenage boys, when, they get a certain age, they want their independence. They think they're, Richard Pryor used to say when he took on his father, said, his father said, I ain't taking this shit no more. I'm a man now. And Richard Pryor went, you remember the skit, and when you a man now, huh?
Yeah.
And he said, my father swung, and he said it seemed like the punch went from Ohio, to Indiana, and he said he hit me in the chest, and my body caved around his fist, and he was swinging me around, and he goes, Dad, stop, I love you. Oh, you love me now, huh? Now, a minute ago, you was a man, huh, mother? And so everyone does. Frankie was a good boy. I got blessed with good boys.
So now, because you're expecting, right?
He's making me a grandfather.
So what? How would you allow you, or would you want your child to be paddled?
Mine?
Yeah. Or would you be fine with that? Or have you ever given it thought? Because Mark, he talked about it, and he said, he got paddled a couple times, but now that he has a 10-year-old, he looks at it and he says, I don't think I'd want a stranger spanking him, So
I didn't get spanked
Yeah.
in school.
I don't really know.
Well,
I feel like it's different from where I was at because I knew everybody. Everybody knew, it was such a small town. To the point to where everybody, like I knew my principal's personal life, I knew my coach's personal life, I knew my assistant principal's personal life. Not that it makes it okay. I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I don't know if I could.
Or you've given it much thought yet, but you will.
Yeah.
You will as your kid gets older.
And your child's mom will have a say in that too.
Yeah, I mean, she's probably going to be the enforcer.
Well, and the child's going to have a say in it, depending how the child develops. You know, if
Well, see,
it's,
I think that's, I think that too, because I think that's why you didn't get notified. I think because I was 18 at the time, I didn't have to notify you.
Right.
I think since I was 18, they allowed me to sign the sheet.
And guess what? The person that did that was notified that I didn't care you were 18 years old. You know. Now when I walk into school, knees would rattle because they knew if I was here, they would go on a walkie-talkies. He's here, like, and come out and meet me. And Mr. Bramante, what's wrong? Because. And I told my kids all the time, you mess up in the classroom, I don't care what it is. Remember, Frank, and I would tell you, who are we always going to side with?
Teachers.
We are always going to side with the teachers.
Yeah.
We don't care what has. So if our kids came up to us and went, yo, we didn't care. We wouldn't, you know, and obviously our kids would get frustrated. They hardly ever got in trouble in school. Our kids, we were just blessed with great kids, you know, but we told them, we're always going to, and we told the teachers, listen, we're always going to side with you.
yeah,
You're never going to.
That's important as heck.
You know, we're always going to, and so, you know, Frankie.
Isn't that an ancient concept, though, as a teacher for 22 years?
Yeah.
You know, and we sided with the teachers, didn't we, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was never really
In trouble, right?
I feel like that one incident where we're talking about was like my biggest.
Yeah. Well, you remember, you didn't get in trouble with me. You got into a fight. Your only fight that you got into school, you were in 7th grade, I believe, or 8th grade. I think 7th, right? And you get into a fight. You were sticking up for your sister, and I got called in because you were in the principal's office. Do you remember? And
No, I don't.
The principal started lecturing you about, you know, the ills of fighting in school and this and that, and I stopped the principal.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
Cold. I stopped him cold.
I do remember that.
You remember me stopping the principal cold? Do not talk to him anymore from here. You're going to address me. He's taught to stick up for his sister. He will stick. If this happened tomorrow, the same ramifications are going to happen. Don't you talk to my son about it. He's wrong for sticking up for his sister. You know, because he stuck up for his sister. Kid was picking on her.
Yeah.
It got physical, you know, and he was a bigger kid. Yeah. You know, and so he kind of got the best of my son, but my son still went at it.
Yeah.
I was proud of my son.
Yeah.
And I told the principal, talk to me. He's been taught to stick up and do something. He's not going to turn the other cheek. He's not going to walk away. Because if he walks away, he's got to deal with me.
You're scaring me looking at you. I'm glad we're more than 6 feet away.
You know, and so that was the thing. Frank, would you say that your teachings with, you know, your teachings as a young person was overly hard?
No. Going through it, yeah. But now, no. Because I mean...
I used to tell my son when he used to say to me, in his high school years, he would say to me, Dad, I want to talk. We got nothing to talk about. Well, I want to talk to you, Dad. You remember, Frank? And he would get frustrated with me and say, Dad, I could never talk to you. And he would get mad at me because he wanted to talk to me about what he was thinking, what he was feeling. I'm old school. I didn't care what he was thinking or what he was talking. I loved him more than ever. I loved him. And I would say to him, he'd get frustrated with me. And I'd say, Frankie, right now I can't be your friend. I can't be your friend right now. I need to be your parent right now. But I promise you, remember me used to tell you this all the time?
Yeah, and I think that's like the major issue is that parents do try to be friends with their kids.
There you go. And what did I promise you? What did I say all the time? I promise you, you and I are going to be what?
Yeah, best friends later in life.
We're going to be best friends and later in life. I promise you. I can't be your friend right now. I got to be your parent. But I promise you, when you get older, you and I are going to be best friends.
That's the coaching in you. I bet a lot of your players was the same thing.
Right, right. You know, right? And I was blessed to have a good boy. He was a
Yeah.
good boy. You know, he was a good boy. He's still a good boy. I'm very proud of him. He lives a good, productive life, law-abiding life. He's got a great career. He does the things that he's supposed to do, and he's taken the natural progression in life. He's having his first child. So life is going along the way it was supposed to be.
You know,
and it wasn't because he had a pussy father. You know, I was not afraid to not be friends with him.
Yeah.
You know, and that was frustrating for him. But what young people don't realize is they're young this long.
Yeah.
Right. You know, the cliche I always heard, you know, when a parent spanked his kid, and it's like, this is going to hurt me more than you. And I never understood how true that was.
Exactly.
But, and I would imagine that it's the same way for you guys that with Brock, he takes it so hard. That's my son, Frankie. He's 10. He takes it so hard on himself when he screws up that it's not the punishment, it's the fact that he let us down with something. And so it's really tough when I did spank him. It was at 3 years old, and now anytime I have to ground him from this or that, man, I just sit in the other room going, oh man, that, you know, I'm hurting more than
It was
he
not
is
easy
it,
for
'cause
our kids to grow up with us. We grew up 20 miles away from their friends. Our home was 20 miles away. They had to travel 20 miles every day to and from school. You know, we live in rural Oklahoma, and it was tough for them because a lot of times they had a small circle of friends that they were sleeping at our house. Frankie was allowed to sleep at one person's house and no one else's. And so I don't think, Frankie, too many times you were out at 3:30 in the morning. Am I wrong?
I don't think I ever was.
And what was the reasoning why you were never out at 3:30 in the morning?
Well, I mean, there's nothing but trouble to find. It's a bewitching hour.
Yeah, it's
You know, and so Frankie has said it.
I don't even think I may. I'm not even out at 3 a.m. now. Even when I was like 21 going to bars, I don't even think I was out that late.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, and I mean, I was a party animal.
Yeah, I mentioned
But
that
that's-
earlier,
that's,
Frankie, that my kids have never seen me out at that time,
That's-
ever.
Yeah, that was
know,
pushing
my
it.
kids have never seen me partying, and,
Yeah, I don't even think I've ever seen you take a drink.
And so.
I think I saw you drink once. I think you had a glass of wine at dinner a few years ago.
Right.
Like a glass.
Right. And I would drink. I'm not a saint. I would have a couple of adult beverages when my kids weren't around. I would have a couple of adult beverages, very sporadically. They'll tell you now I hardly drink. Now, at Uncle Andy's wedding, I was sideways, But that was, at that time, I was 57 years old, so it was,
Speaking
but-
of which, are we allowed to go grab a
ahead.
glass of water or
Go
something?
ahead,
and
go
hit
ahead.
the- okay.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna go.
And
Just
so.
ask them for a cup. They'll give you a cup.
One of the things that, Frankie, as you go into you're going to begin a year from today, your parenting. At the time you didn't like I don't know how I would class it, tough parenting.
Tough love.
He wasn't allowed to have a normal high school social life. He wasn't allowed to go, dating. There had to be he was a senior. If you went on a date, what was the rule?
I don't even remember.
A parent had to be there.
Who?
A parent.
Yeah.
Parent.
And that had to be embarrassing, to say, as a senior, for crying out loud. And because the only reason we used to teach our kids.
It wasn't that bad because she, the girl I was dating at the time, she had a strict family too.
Right.
So that, she came from a good family,
Yeah, that
a
makes
good
sense.
church family.
Yeah.
So-
And we would tell them, we would teach our kids, you're going to make mistakes in life. All of us do. All of us still do. But some have consequences that last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's what we would tell our kids. Some have consequences that would last a lifetime. And so hopefully the lessons that we taught my son Frankie is that you can overcome anything. Don't let a mistake keep you down. Learn from it. Take a negative and make it a positive in life, you know. And I think as he looks back now, the times that I was tough on him, which was a lot, he knows it was out of love.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as life, though.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah. And I think especially for the teenage mind, which science tells us that a teenager their brain doesn't fully develop till probably the age of 25. You know, it's difficult for them to understand and rationalize and say, "Ow, that hurts. Oh, you made me feel this way." And it's tough for them to see the big picture or have perspective to really see the teaching moment of it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I feel like at that age, you think you know everything,
Absolutely.
and you don't.
Yeah.
And you don't know shit.
I told a story earlier, Frank. You were a young guy, I think 8 years old, maybe 7 years old, and we were at the Ponderosa for breakfast. And you would sometimes have the habit of being nilly-willy and not know your surroundings. You remember? And you almost knocked over a waitress with a hot, full pot of coffee. And if you just, her nimbleness is what avoided you. And I scoffed you in the top of the head, like just scoffed you, on the top of the head and say, know your surroundings. You could have got burned right there. And everybody looked at me like I was public enemy number one. How could he scoff that beautiful little kid, but what I saw was
that's indicative of what's
him,
wrong with
him
society.
bumping into her and her pouring that pot and him having lifetime scars.
Yeah.
And so, do you remember that?
But
No, he doesn't.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'd trip over hair.
Yeah, I know.
And so how's the weather out there? I hear you guys are in hurricane force winds.
Yeah, it sucks. A lot of people are out of power. They're not giving us a time frame when they're going to be back.
Oh, you still have power?
What state?
New Jersey.
No.
He's down at Jersey Shore right now. So you still have your power?
No.
Oh, you're out?
Everybody's beat. Yeah, it's bad.
Okay.
It was quick. It happened really fast.
Did
We had a
it,
couple tornadoes.
did it remind you of home?
Hurricane Sandy? No. No. Bad.
Home, Oklahoma.
Nah.
You experienced storms in Oklahoma that knocked the power out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was an ice storm.
So yous are safe?
Yeah, we're good. We're laying down. It's a little late. We're just hanging out.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate you coming on. You working tomorrow or you off tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm working tomorrow.
You cleanup crew tomorrow?
I don't know what we're going to be.
Right. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. The first time my son's been on the podcast, and we had to talk about, him getting paddled,
Right.
and appreciate you sharing with us, my boy, and call me one of these days. All right, you got it?
So we know he lived through the experience.
He lived through the experience. All right, Frankie, you can go back to sleep now. Sorry for waking you up.
Now, I feel like I have to tell you guys my one spanking in school since we brought it
You
up.
got capital punishment or corporal punishment in
Yeah,
school?
well, it was it was in junior high at Jackson Junior High School. I think I can't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade, but we were in the it was PE class. We were a bunch of guys jiving around, and someone stole somebody's jock, and we were flinging it. I actually wasn't in the flinging process because I've always been a germaphobe and I wasn't about to touch someone else's jockstrap, unlike most of the media guys out here who like to kiss them, sniff those suckers. But things flying around and guys are all cutting up and this and that, and an F-bomb came out of somebody's mouth. And immediately the door opens from the coaching office, and I can picture the guy's face, but I can't remember his name. I would say it if I did. I would say it. But he comes out. He wasn't. I'd never had him as a coach or teacher, and he wants to know who said it. And I can't remember the kid who said it, but it could have been anybody. And so he starts threatening all of us that if we don't turn in the guy who said it, or if he doesn't fess up to it, we're all going to get whacked. And he had one of those hard wiffle ball bats, you know. And so me being me, right away I'm like going into civil rights about this whole ordeal. And well, you tell me who did it then, Smith. And I'm like, last thing I'm going to do is throw someone under the bus.
Citing the 8th Amendment and the 5th Amendment.
Yeah, you can't spank everybody in here. And I'm yakking it up with him. And eventually a couple other guys chime in with me. There's 3 of us. And so he figures, well, go ahead and whack you 3 unless whoever fesses up does so, or you guys tell. And to the other 2 guys' credit, none of us squealed, and I just kept going on and on about, I almost dropped a few F-bombs right at his face, you know, but we got whacked. And the old man, did he like to have in school? He wasn't happy about that because he knew I wasn't lying about it to him.
Yeah.
And so the coach got in some trouble for that.
You know, times have changed. Matt Moss, brother, you know, if you want to come on, talk about the parenting, come on, man. It's the same old number, 405-668-2060.
So if they call your phone, they can plug in.
Through the Bluetooth.
We can
Comes in
also
over-
we can also send him a video link, and he can actually.
Yeah, we can live stream.
We can live
people.
stream.
I got to learn some of this stuff because
Exactly.
a couple of guys asked me if they'd be able to.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Chime
calling
in.
I'm calling. You know, the Coach Beck. What was Coach Beck's comment?
Coach Beck, he says, I always use the underarm pinch and the ear twist in public. He goes, I whisper in their ear, and it would have their attention. So,
State championship coach Gary Beck.
I've done a lot of whispering in ears in my time, but it wasn't to force guys into doing anything.
Right.
I
It
just,
was,
usually have to say, you know what? We're about to go outside in the car. Let's change our
I
behavior.
used to do the whispering a lot in clubs. Actually, it was more shouting, but
So,
the sweet nothings. I was more of a lover than a
I know
fighter.
if we get somebody to call in, we'll come to the subject. But what to talk about? Even just sports starting back up. I see you changed your hat. I guess you're.
I am now.
You're repping something
I'm ready to make my golfing comeback. I've been down this year, and it's not going well. I've the past couple weeks I've tried to redo of my swing because I took off about 10 years with back ailments, and now with the extra age, not that I was anything worth anything before, but holy cow, is it tough to get a ball these days. And dist with any kind of
Sports being your
I'm
background,
gonna play
your
there.
career, your livelihood. What do you think about what's going on in pro sports now, as far as with the responsibility that pro sports athletes feel in
with COVID.
with COVID, with social issues? Is the sport being given its right due with the bubbles in hockey and the bubbles in basketball, and so many athletes opting out, and fans not being able to go, and I mean,
Right.
we as a country need sports, but in your lifetime's work of sports, what's your opinion on it?
I've got a lot of different thoughts on the map, but boy, I've lost a lot of interest during this pandemic, and I agree with trying to get things back slowly. You knew there was never going to be this turn the light switch on with stuff again. So, I get it that you're starting slowly and trying to work things back with it. I get so annoyed, and all my close friends know just how disgusted I am with media and how you just can't get the truth out there. Everything's got to be political, left or right, with all this. And with a teacher as a wife and our son, trying to figure out the best decisions to make for going back. And John, I'm sure you're confused as heck right now.
Mm-hmm.
You just want, and I get tired of hearing follow the science, because everyone spins the science a different way anyway, on top of the fact we don't really know what the science is with anything. But I'm going off in tangents here. But I like to see him trying to get things going. Now you've got your anti-movements that are like, we should have never started baseball again. Look what's happening to Miami. And I don't know. I want to know. I don't want to know how many people have tested positive on the Marlins. I want to know how they've been affected, those who have tested positive. What's the effect been? That'll tell me a lot more than just, oh, look how many positives we have. We should have never started again. I want to know what's going on with that so we can figure out in our own lives. Is it only, I'm in a high risk category, not because of the glaucoma, but I have a liver disease. I have diabetes. I'm 62. And so there are things I have to be cautious about. But I want to know, what of the 15 players now in Miami, what are their symptoms? Are their guys bedridden? Yeah, obviously it can be spread easily. So there are all kinds of things that grow out of these thoughts with this stuff. But I do like starting something. You got to start somewhere with things. Now, football, I don't know how you're going to get that going if it's this easily spread.
Right.
I mean, what do you think, John, with, a contact sport like that? Boy, and I don't want to see football doing anything really weird, to just try to keep the game going. And if some of the bigger stars are going to stay out, I don't want to see it diluted too much, but something really you got to start somewhere with this stuff.
I'm concerned with some of the schools that have been conflicted and how the numbers grow so fast. That's the thing I'm concerned about, and who they spread it to.
Yeah, and then that takes it back to how serious
Right.
it's affecting athletes.
Right.
Because if it's just, you just hear everything. Non-symptomatic stuff. This guy just felt like it was a cold. This guy didn't even know he had it. This guy passed it to a grandparent who died.
To me, those have to be the big stories, because that's, so I look at it personally for mine, and we haven't done a great job of social distance. Have we been quarantined for 4 months? No, because we get out and we throw the football and so we haven't been really following the guidelines. But those are the things that are in the back of my mind, because I have a mother who's 72 years old, and she has a pacemaker, and she has all these other health conditions. She's a breast cancer survivor. She has all these other things, and those things weigh on. So you probably, as a parent, you're saying, okay, do I want to send my 10-year-old? He's probably not going to be affected by it. Right. He could bring it back to me, and I could be affected by it.
And my mom's 94. And so now we take it another step. But in the meantime, man, you want them back in school.
In our family, we practice social distancing. And my wife is a diabetic, and the fear of her getting sick, and leaving Orion and myself is, unimaginable. And so we practice it. We don't mess around.
Well, we
with it.
do everywhere.
Now, you as a teacher,
Yeah, that's.
and as teachers are now, you're seeing teachers going, we don't want to go back in the classroom with students. How do you feel about, going into a classroom and, God, we've known that the number one susceptible place for sickness is classroom. That's since the beginning of
Petri
time.
dish.
You
It's a
know,
petri
how
dish.
do you feel about, you see teachers out there saying, hey, we're not going back to students in classrooms. Teacher unions going, we want to do virtual, virtual learning.
I've had this discussion with our union head, because I'm like, okay, who's going to sanitize our class? And they're like, you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So after every kid comes in, and say, like, hypothetically, even if you had 15 kids, which is at 50%, if you have 30, that's if you have 30 in your classroom. So if you have 15 kids that are coming there for 50 minutes, okay, so a traditional passing period, 6 to 7 minutes, whatever. Am I supposed to clean the classroom? And I've seen the recommendations. It says staff's responsible for sanitizing areas that are frequently contacted, which is every kid's desk, every pencil sharpener, every, whatever they touch throughout the period. So
Or breathe on.
Oh yeah. Okay. So how am I supposed to sanitize all those things, and where are those kids supposed to go? Then we're not going to let them in the cafeteria. They're going to have to eat lunch with you.
Yeah, exactly. And are we terrorized by a sneeze?
Yeah.
Are we terrorized by a cough? Are we terrorized by someone blowing their nose, postnasal drip?
A
those are the things
headache. I'm telling you, right before I left, my wife wasn't feeling too good. She said she had a headache, and she looked at me. She goes, if I felt like this going to school, technically, I shouldn't go to school. And I was like, wow, how many sick days are they going to allow you guys with this?
And that was a question I asked too. So say a kid in my class tests positive. Okay, that means I will have to go in quarantine for 14 days. Are they? And I asked my union chair, and she couldn't give me an answer yet, because they still haven't come up with this answer. I don't have 14 days of sick leaves. This is my first year in a new school district. I haven't accumulated 14 days of sick days. So what's going to happen then? Am I going to get docked my pay because I have to take off because they forced me back?
Forced quarantine, right?
Yeah, forced quarantine. I did finally get an answer now that I remember. It says that according to the CARES Act, there's supposed to be 2 weeks of sick pay for it.
Extra?
That you were supposed to, I guess.
The missed payroll.
Yeah, so we're supposed to be protected. Okay, so then what happens when it's the second time that there's a kid that tests positive, and I got to go out for another 14 days of quarantine?
Yeah.
And all the same time, I'm generating lesson plans, I'm grading, doing all these other things while I'm doing it from home. Do you see what I'm saying?
And what about all the kids that are in the class?
I know.
Now
Then
they technically have to.
Theoretically, and then all the kids that they've been in contact, because that's just it. At an elementary
Yes.
school level, I can see it kind of working, because for 6.5 hours, you have the same kids.
Right.
And I think that's where they made a mistake of painting with a broad brush. They should have said, okay, with elementary school kids, we understand this is the biggest group that parents really struggle with daycare, right? Because they're young and they're not just going to leave them at home by themselves. So I think they should have looked at it in two facets of elementary kids and middle school and high school kids. I think middle school and high school kids can do distant learning, and
Yeah.
I mean, my son said it today. His biggest concern is not learning the information, because he knows his future is contingent upon killing it on the ACT and SATs,
Right.
And being judged versus other kids because he wants an Ivy League education, or he wants to be able to have an ACT score so high that he can go anywhere he wants. So he just said that today. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Because he's an AP, he does all these other things. He's ranked number 1 in his class right now, so he's on the valedictorian
right,
track.
yeah.
So those are his concerns.
Girls, stay away from them.
He's not. There's just no way he's going to learn this same type of stuff.
Did the NCAA waive
This year,
qualifying
yes.
test
This
this year?
Correct.
Being that they waived it this year, and so many schools like APS is talking about staggered, they're talking about virtual, they're talking about, should they waive it again?
They're going to have to do it, I think, for the next 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Because, so my kid's a sophomore right now. He's AP World, chemistry, honors English. He's on all these tough classes, but those are all important to him doing well on his college entrance exams. And I already know, as me as a social studies teacher, I already know that there's no way that he's gonna be able to take an online course and learn all the content he's supposed to. So I've been spending the last 2 weeks creating a website, finding all the AP content so that I have information for him. But again, most parents aren't capable of doing those things.
No,
So you-
yeah, we've been kind of taking a page out of that book.
Finding
as,
supplemental stuff for your
yeah,
kids.
is when this thing happened last in the spring semester, and Brock was in 3rd grade, and he's in, it's hard enough to get him just to look at the thing online, but then they're on there and they're, how are you today? What the
It's
kids are
not
all
the same.
talking, and
It's
we
not
were
the same.
lucky that was also getting gifted class, and there were 3 of them there, and so there was some learning that he could do, but it just got to be, and this is not a blow against his teacher whatsoever, it's just that you have to teach everybody at the same level when you're doing it online like that. And there's nothing that he was going to be able to learn, with stuff that was just so diluted and dumbed down to make sure everybody understood it. And so we're really concerned about that. So this, during the summer, we've kept him, my wife who teaches 3rd grade, and so she has a lot of things that she was able to find, and we make him read and write book reports. He reads every night. We make him write a book report about what he's read for the week and stuff, and just to try to keep something going.
That
But I'm
intellectual
really
engagement,
worried.
yeah, no, and that should be a concern for parents. It really should be a concern for parents because, unfortunately, this is completely brand new, and I think the mistakes that were made in the spring, because I would sit with administrators and I would tell them, you know what, now during this time, why not let's get the teachers ready for the fall.
Yeah.
And let's plan for the worst. And they're like, oh, no, let's just get through this. And I'm like, oh, come on, let's think into the future and let's try to plan. And they just weren't into it because, number one, they were overwhelmed, and it was just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, so there isn't even anything structured yet, right? You're not going till after Labor Day is the only thing we know.
That's
the only
APS.
thing we know.
Bernalillo, you guys are starting up, right?
No, but we're following the state
Oh,
guidelines.
are you?
Of course,
Okay, state,
that's just
okay.
it. Is once the state sets the guidelines. Now we had come up with an initial plan because they were trying to be forward thinking before the governor. But once the governor, because that's just it, is if you're under the purview of the NMPED, then you have to follow those guidelines. So we're going to wait till after. But again, I say by August 18th. Or about mid-month, they're going to make more decisions, and I think they'll just push us back to October, and then eventually push us back into November. And I think this whole fall semester.
It'll all change after the
and
election, man.
My son going into his junior year, he needs to play ball. Can't lose his junior year because that sets up the senior year.
Yeah, and
recruiting.
if you got a kid looking for scholarship stuff,
and he's,
Oh, absolutely.
and that February 22nd start date, just makes me nervous as heck because we don't know where we're going with this.
Oh, I know.
And they're going to combine basketball and football, and my son
what does a
plays
kid
both.
do? How do they make that choice?
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
does a coach then talk? Well, I need him more for this because I've got that guy there, and then it's
Right.
the final
Right.
decision. Hopefully,
And basketball, I believe, is gonna, they're gonna start their tournament in March, right?
Yeah. Here's the I think $100 question is these kids that have D1 offers, are they going to want to play that late in March and April, like Trey Watson and Chance Harris out in Clovis and all these kids that have D1 off that they're going to these places. Are they going to want to forego their senior year?
I think.
yeah, that's
If you're an athlete, see if you agree with me, Mark. And let's say there's an athlete on my son's team that got a scholarship to Baylor, and his mentality is, I got the scholarship.
Because they'll sign.
I'm going to
in February.
graduate in January,
Yeah,
and I'm going to report in January to Baylor.
pretty sure. Yeah.
And they're going to get him in a weight room, and there's nothing like a D1 weight room. They're going to coach his ass up, and there's nothing, you can't get that kind of coaching on the high school level at most schools. And so that kid probably would not be advantageous for him to play his senior year.
I would totally agree with the kid getting out of Dodge.
Getting out of Dodge and
You wouldn't. I mean, just
Again,
a chance
start
to-
that
JB
next
White,
level of coaching.
Wasn't that one of JB White's reasons for graduating early, is to get away from Santa Fe and to get, to start his life?
Yeah.
I saw that correlation too.
let's change course here, guys. While we got Mark Ticky Smith here, let's follow up on the sports questions, right? How, with the way things are, how has that affected gaming? How has that affected, the guys that like to put down a little bit of bet on something? How's that affected it?
It's driven me crazy. Man. Yeah, I know Sebastian went opening day. He went out, went to Isleta, I think.
Yeah,
on
him and I,
on baseball, right?
Yeah.
Opening day. I just, I've felt so kind of beaten up with everything sports-wise that I didn't have the interest. I'm not a huge baseball guy as it is anyway, but I was like, man, and I think one of the benefits, maybe the silver lining for me with all this, has been staying away from the casinos. To be honest,
Well,
but,
I placed only one bet on baseball, and watching the changes daily, watching what's going on, who's playing, who's not, who's opting out, who's gotten sick, who's gotten. I said, you know what? The one play that I played went down. I wasn't sure of anything anymore, and I said no more. Now, but you and I both know you're out at Route 66 teaching classes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're at
yeah.
Route 66 teaching classes on how to
put
wager.
down sports bets,
Right,
yeah,
how to
yeah.
wager.
Now,
Football's around the corner.
yeah, and what's going to be interesting though is which a buddy of mine called me last night. He said that some of these NBA players, he's like, I haven't heard of a lot of these
Some guys who haven't played in a couple of years.
Yeah, and then I'm spacing out
J.R.
which.
Smith. And
What baseball team today got hit really hard with the virus? And
Cardinals?
yeah, it was, and they were saying that there's like 14 guys who were not on the major league roster who are going to be playing now, and the manager didn't even know their name, hadn't even heard of their names and stuff. How are you going to figure out, how are you going to bet this stuff? It's going to be tough. So now it's going to be real interesting with the odds makers. That's some serious extra information that they're going to have to weigh, except, they'll figure it out because people want to bet. Hey, one of the betting sites that I'm interested
Researched.
Oh, yeah, research. You can bet on the stock market and each of the Dow's 30. Okay, do you bet on how it's going to perform? No. Every single bet is minus 110, so it's an even coin flip. On if the stock will
On the
finish
stock, really?
with an even or odd number at the end of the day in pennies. So all you're doing, but that just shows you how much people want to gamble on something.
Right.
And speaking of which, I saw I've been oblivious, I guess. But what is this esports thing? ESPN was showing these video basketball games, and you can bet on that stuff. One guy playing playing against one
That's
guy.
funny.
Well, you do
and
it at
you can-
video poker and video blackjack and
No, but
video.
you're-
No, but-
you
but
can
you're
bet
betting
on-
on
it's-
the e-athlete.
If you're playing against
Yeah.
him
Oh, yeah.
in whatever kind of game on, you can bet on which one of these guys is going to win.
Oh, I know.
Now, how sick do you got to be to put down money on something like that, not thinking that someone's in cahoots with the other one? I mean, it's like
According
insane.
to, I looked up an article on the Las Vegas Review Journal. It says the Gaming Control Board says that Vegas is losing like $700,000 a day for lack of betting.
Well, there's no. I mean, I'm waiting. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's too much. You can't get information because the information's not available. You know, we had J.D. Davis, the Mets at third, some guy in center field that I never heard of. Brian Dozier, who was playing second base tonight. Who, you know, I mean, our lineup was like, and I think they got hammered by the Nats. I think the Nats that the
The whole atmosphere is just
It is
so
crazy.
bizarre,
It is
you know.
crazy. You know, J.R. Smith playing with the Lakers. The last time he played was when he lost sight of the clock in a
With the
championship.
Cavs.
You know, for the Cavs and other guys that haven't played for years. And it's the first time I'm a sports guy. I watch all sports, and you're going, who is that?
Yeah.
You know, who's number 18? Who's number?
Yeah, I just have a feeling, you know, the NFL's going to figure out something because there's just too much money involved there, and they'll be gambling.
So is the NBA champion, or is that a legit, let's say the Lakers win, are
I
they
would
legit
say
champions?
I would
World
say
Series
no.
champions, are they legitimate? NHL champions, are they legitimate?
I like
Would you put it in the same? Would you put it in the same grouping of say like the Redskins winning during a
87?
strike year?
They're no longer called that name.
Okay, you're right. So the Washington football team.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, whatever. But I mean, but you understand my
Yeah.
comparison is they won a Super Bowl with
87.
right?
Was
they
it
won,
80?
they won it with the
strike?
first-
82. It was the
first part
82
of it had
strike
like a
year.
strike team.
Yeah.
And then later on they
nine.
came back.
I think it was 9 regular season games with the real guys afterwards. I think.
Yeah. So do you put it in that same classification of like an asterisk, I guess?
I guess Yeah,
I thought the Lakers were going to win it prior to COVID.
Yeah.
You know, so
How many of their players are not playing right
Exactly.
now though? You know,
Exactly.
but Rondo's injured. The core is still playing. I mean,
boy,
And the athletes are in the bubble. How many of them are starting to get frustrated now being in the bubble? And is that going to affect performance? And no
people-
fans, does that perfect inform? I think it definitely perfects or it impacts the visiting team because they don't have to hear boos anymore.
yeah.
So
That's
I
why
think
they're
that
saying the games
definitely
are a lot
impacts.
closer.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
impacts
And
the
there's no
visiting
bad
team.
team, because they only took the top 22. That I mean, you're not playing dogs.
yeah.
So let's get into you before we leave.
Okay.
You have a very unique nickname. Okay? And it's unique to me, Tiki, because I was a diehard. My 4 teams. Everybody knows my 4 teams: Giants, Mets, Knicks, Rangers. Back in the '70s, one of my favorite players was a kid named Burden.
Luther.
His nickname was Tiki Swish. And so when I would play basketball as a young guy and I would make the shot, I would always go, Tiki Swish. And so, how did you get the nickname Tiki?
That was my idol when I was in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
that was your
he
Kobe of
played
your day.
Who was your idol?
Tiki Burden.
Really?
Yeah, and he used to wear tassels on his shoes at the University of Utah. And I started wearing tassels on my shoes in high school. And guys started
You're
calling me
kidding me.
that
We
Tiki
have
guy.
Tiki Swish, you know, between us.
now
It's
do you-
in our DNA, Tiki Swish.
Yeah, I'll tell you know how he got the nickname Tiki? His
But because
mom
would-
gave it to him.
Because what Tiki said at the time is what the Nets sounded like when he would hit
So
it.
his mom used to listen and playing on the chain nets, and we all know what those are like out there, and she said it made this ticking sound, and she started calling him Ticky. Now the real irony was that Mike Sojourner played on that team with Utah. Ticky became my idol, and and his backcourt mate was Tyrone Medley
At Utah.
at Utah.
Okay.
And as fate would have it down the road,
Because with the Knicks, it was Ray Williams and Sugar Ray Richardson.
well, you know what ended happening to Burden, right? He ended up armed robbery and
Yeah.
serving 18 years in Rahway
did he?
State Pen.
In Jersey. I grew up 10 minutes from Rahway. It's called East Jersey
Yeah,
now.
so-
I grew up 10 minutes from... I used to pass that prison. My father would say to me as a kid, "There's your future home."
Rahway?
Every time, Rahway State Prison.
That was.
Tiki
that's
ended
where
up in there?
He ended up. He's dead now. He died a couple of years ago. But he was. He went to Rahway for 18 years. Tyrone Medley, who I would have been my idol had he worn tassels on his shoes. Tyrone Medley became the first black Supreme Court justice in the state of Utah. Which one was my idol? The guy in Rahway, you know. My friends from high school always gave me a hard time about that. But
I
yeah.
never knew that.
Yeah,
that
and
Tiki
it's-
Switch was
it's
I love Tiki Switch to the
You guys are
point
way
where
too fucking old for me.
I would shoot, and when I played Tiki Swish, when I would hit it, Tiki Swish, and then I went from Tiki Swish
how about that?
to Mike Newland. You remember
Oh
Mike
yeah,
Newland?
yeah. And he was another Utah guy.
Was he? He's a
Yeah.
Utah guy too.
Yeah.
And so how
Free
about
throw
that?
shooting expert. Yeah.
Mike Newland. Listen, we love that you came down.
Oh,
We're
let me,
gonna- we're-
can I?
we're gonna-
I'll toss you something about the site in Chapman
Toss
Sports.
it out.
Yeah, I've shown it when we were talking.
Oh, okay.
No,
I
don't want this to
we've-
be the only time here. I want you to come as much as you can come. I want you to be a regular because you have something to say. You have something. We don't care.
Well, you know you're
We
going to
wanna-
get people griping at you.
We got more people griping at me the first time you
I
came
know.
on.
Yeah, you got.
If you know Coach B don't give a
All right.
rat's ass
Well, you know,
who gripes at him about
and this will
whatever.
be an interesting story down the road that I was getting close to putting. I see the stuff right there. That I was getting close to running. That I was banned off KOB radio, and I was getting ready to post something about that in February before all this stuff happened, and then priorities changed. But that'll be an interesting. But yeah,
Nobody
you
is
know,
putting food on my table that
No,
I would
that's
say,
good.
hey, I have to be intimidated or to take a point of view of sticking up for somebody.
Yeah,
you're,
well,
you're
gonna-
not you're not
gonna
a guy
hear
you're
from
not
it
a
'cause,
guy you're not a guy who just writes to write. That doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with everything from you,
hope
but
not.
that's only going to make
I
the
hope
show
not.
even better.
Well, I'm not. I'm kind of reassessing what's going to become of the site, and obviously during this shutdown with no sports, it's been kind of tough to do things, and I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen, but
how about we got this, John? What do you think? Enchantment Sports Podcast. Or the
Well, let
Tiki
me see
Smith
what's
or
gonna
the
happen
Tiki
here
Smith
still.
Podcast. Yeah, listen, you've got to join the new millennium.
well, you're going
2020. Everybody's
Yeah.
doing it. You know, everybody's going. We want your opinion. We value your opinion. That doesn't mean we have to agree with it
No,
all the
you're
time.
not supposed to
Or you have to
agree.
agree. Or you have to agree with Coach B's opinion
No.
or John's opinion. But
No, I
that
don't
being
want.
said-
I don't want people just kiss up and agree. That sucks.
We're gonna challenge you.
Well, the reason I started this in the first place was to get some honest journalism, not influenced by sponsorships or anything like that. And the sponsors I have, that was I don't go out and try to sell things to people, and they all knew that they were going to be on this, and there could be some controversial things. And there's been a couple of big time investigative pieces that I've done that the local media wouldn't touch, you know.
Like the New
And-
Mexico Bowl.
the
You
New Mexico
will
Bowl
touch
stuff.
it here.
And that's, you know, the New Mexico Bowl with Jeff Symbieta doing the morning show. They weren't too happy, you know. And I had to press up, I can't remember the schmo's name, who's the program director now there, but he, you know, I was basically banned. I go, yeah, of course, you know, Symbieta didn't want me on there anyway. And Symbieta and I were friends for a long time, but, you know, executive
Him and I were
director.
friends, and he was angry with me for having you on. And
There you go.
And I was like, should I be angry with him that he had Pig Brown in the studio? Should I be angry with him if he brings the new coach, Tino, the new coach, Theus? And should I be mad of that? No,
It's ridiculous, but
yeah,
that's,
like
you know,
I'm not. But I don't care who gets mad at me. If you're going to get mad at me and you don't get over it, then we were never friends to begin with.
well,
You know, what we want here on the podcast, we want to be entertaining, but we are also very informative.
well, that's good. And I think you know, you've got something here with changing a little bit, you know. I don't understand how all this stuff works, but if you can monetize it down the road, you do what I did to make sure
we're
your
gonna
sponsors don't.
monetize.
They know this is going to be a different type of deal.
Speaking
And,
of our sponsor, have you ever heard of our sponsor, ASEA? You know, we're going to talk more about ASEA in future
I was wondering what
Yeah.
what all that.
Well, we actually have a plug for that, and we're going to actually play that now, and then that'll cut our audio out for a little bit. But
Let's play our ASEA for them. And as we sign off, I want to play the...
My name is Cody Miller. I'm an Olympic gold medalist swimmer, and I currently hold the American record in the 100-meter breaststroke. Recovery is immensely important in the sport of swimming. When I finish a really, really hard race, it basically feels like my body is about to collapse. Everything is super throbby and really, really tight. So it's almost as if every step I take, my body's fighting back to not take that step. You know, when I climb out of the pool and have to walk around, it almost feels like my body is shutting down, and there's this like scorching pain running through my veins. Before I was taking ASEA, I would do one or two races, and then my body would really start to shut down. You know, I get really, really tired, just feel really fatigued. And obviously doing multiple races in one day is just very physically taxing on your body. So now that I'm taking ASEA, I'm able to compete longer, have more races in one competition, and feel less tired. I just feel better as the meet progresses, and I'm able to push myself to new levels. When I first started taking ASEA, it was during a really big, long block of training where I was swimming almost twice as much as I normally do in race season to really build an aerobic base. And what I noticed is when I started taking the ASEA, my aerobic pace was increasing and I was able to train longer at a higher threshold. So that's when big strides in the sport of swimming are made, or when you're able to do that. From there, I just continually got better. Continually started making strides in the pool and then going best times. I'll never forget the first time I stood on that Olympic podium. After winning that bronze medal in the breaststroke, I looked off to my left and I saw my family. And I basically started crying. I was like tearing up on the podium. When I was training leading up to the Olympics, I was taking ASEA and I had the best training blocks of my life. My name is Cody Miller. I'm an Olympic gold medalist swimmer, and ASEA powers my recovery.
It's here. It's arrived. ASEA. It's a game changer.
You should redo the old Who song, right? And see if you can change like ASEA. Athena was.
I like that. I like it. ASEA is our sponsor.
It's a great name.
And we're going to get into it more as we move along.
I see ya.
As we close out, John, what do we got as we close out?
well, let me find out who give this person credit. It's called Sports Primo. they created this video, sort of a tribute video, and when it first came out, there was like 96,000 views. There's like 2,000 shares, and it's just a short little tribute video, a minute video for JB White. So let's go ahead and put that on.
And we're going to close out the show with that as soon as we're done. Tiki, Thursday? Can we see you Thursday?
Ooh, I haven't even looked at my schedule.
Look at your schedule. We want you on as much as we can.
I'll try. I don't think Thursday. I don't think I'll be able to do that because I know I've got a
Next
doctor's
week,
appointment.
I want to have an Enchantment Sports block.
Okay, let's. We'll discuss that and see what we can do. I gotta, like I said, figure out what I'm doing with the site here as things start.
Did you have fun today?
Yeah, this was cool to do.
Okay. And you were great.
I have opinions.
Yeah,
sometimes
and we get that way. Sometimes we're like sporadic, and we go and talk about things, and we try to bring it back into what we were talking about.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a guy that people are going to agree with very often. But you got to be heard in this world.
Love it, love it, love it. Hey.
And when Symbiotic calls this time, tell him to post something on my site about it. I let anyone post.
We love Albuquerque. We love our athletes here in Albuquerque, our young athletes. JB, we're thinking about you tonight, and we're going to close out tonight with a tribute.
And I'm going to play without the audio because I don't want to get dinged for copyright and people not be able to watch this show. I'm going to play without audio, but I think it's a really good tribute to him.
Play it with audio, even if we get dinged.
But then people won't be able to hear the show. Do you see what I'm saying?
Another alley-oop and JD gets it twice. No one charged him. Trey on the way. Buries it.
Good night. We'll see you Thursday.